For the last week, Elaine has been living with an alien. She met the representative of the Juanitos ascendancy on a fortuitous grocery trip. At first, they struggled to negotiate a trade, the Juanitos so fascinated with the greatest human technological achievement of all time, lactose-free dairy substitutes, even offering such riches as the ubiquitous cultural repository. But it was the happenstance of Elaine's pursuit of a selfie with the blue whale that proved its downfall, for the Juanitos do not possess social media. The preceding 7 days have been spent retweeting Trump jokes, Facebooking gifts to 80 celebrities, and Snapchatting stories about chocolate-flavoured breakfast cereal. Will the Juanitos shake this horrible addiction and share their greatest technological inventions with humankind? Or are they doomed to an eternal cycle of YouTube vlogs? Oh, there's a new NPI video for some game called Sidereal Confluence.
This game looks awful. It's got a cover that's got the grace and panache of a Tesco Value detergent bottle, and don't even get me started on the rest of it. Actually, I did already start, so why not keep going? The cards, and all this game is just a sprawl of cards and wooden cubes, look like they've been designed by a graphic designer who's been wormholed from an obscure sci-fi publishing house from the 70s to the present and told to do what they do best. And then there's that title. A title that I almost say is gibberish, but the only quantum of solace here is that it isn't. Sidereal, which I had to look up in the dictionary, not just for the definition, but also on how to pronounce it, means of or in relation to the distant stars. And whilst I hope I don't need to give you the definition for confluence, in summation, it still makes for a title that will raise more than just this unibrow. I'd like to tell you that it gets better from here, but then there's this rulebook that, whilst brief, much like an intoxicated octopus, is just all over the place. It's hard to look anything up, and some of it is just plain wrong. Now, there's a particularly striking bit towards the end where you get to scoring, and then you find out that you have to half the values of everything that you've learned so far, and then on top of that, if you want to get an accurate score for the game, you have to use the advanced scoring method, which uses complicated fractions, and, as confirmed by the designer on Board Game Geek himself, is actually incorrect. All of this comes from WizKids, a publisher that has so far failed to produce anything that's really actually impressed us, and from a first-time designer, which should send alarm bells ringing. No, I don't mean ring an actual alarm bell. Can you stop that? Don't ring. Stop ringing the. Can you stop? Stop. 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 Stop.
Oh wow. I had the weirdest dream where Efka was poo-pooing what is nothing less than our game of the year. Strap on your space seatbelts and let first-time designer Tasseti Dykeman take you on an intergalactic space journey of nothing less than epic proportions. In Sidereal Confluence, you will play a space species that hangs out with other space species at a galactic gathering at what can only be described as a market of wooden cubes, in the hopes of increasing your economy and advancing your technologies. The gist is simple. Each asymmetric species will have an economic engine represented by a number of starting cards. Input your cubes on the left and you will output cubes on the right. And when you have enough cubes, you can take them to the research teams who will invent a technology and score you a number of points. And again, the technology cards, you input the cubes on the left and you output the cubes on the right. And the one with the most points at the end of the game is the best at space. Choosing between species is like choosing between hippopotami with different amputated appendages. Whichever one you go for, the unwieldy beast will likely wreck your house, break your HD DVD collection and leave a total mess. Visually, the game will spew cards, and which can be arranged however you like, meaning that everyone will arrange them slightly differently, and eventually your table will just be awash with thin cardboard. And if you think that is manageable, this is just the setup for a 4-player game, which is the minimum, going all the way way to 9. Each round new technologies and more cards will be introduced and you will run out of space. But if you're having serious doubts, belay them, sailor, because the good far outweighs the mess and it's worth swabbing the deck. Your species are also a mess conceptually, which, believe it or not, is a very good thing. As mentioned before, you'll start with a set of cards which is that very same injured hippopotamus, because none of them works. Well, not entirely. You'll have an engine that theoretically works, but you just don't have anything to run through that engine. You have cubes, but not the cubes that you need. Think of it as being human, really. You can walk and talk and take selfies if you have to, but without that endless supply of sausage rolls, you will surely perish. Welcome to the main course of this sidereal dish. You don't have things that you need, and you do have things that you don't need, but so does everyone else, and you have just 10 minutes to make things happen. You can trade a cube for a cube. You can trade one of your converters for a cube. You can trade a technology that you've just invented for a cube, or even something that's unique to you can trade for a cube. And the rulebook, as far as I remember, said absolutely nothing about not trading your mother for a cube. Anything aside from trading victory points, which is completely verboten, is a cube. To fully understand why this is just about the best 10 minutes of gaming ever, we're going to break down the trading phase into 3 conceptual stages, much like the 5 stages of grief, which incidentally are also present here, mixed together all at once. Because it's just that good. Under your dinkiest of player screens, there is a cheat sheet that gives you approximate conversion rates for making a fair trade. Like 3 smaller cubes are worth 2 bigger cubes are worth 1 octagonal cube, and so on. But if everyone played fair, then this game would be about as vibrant and exciting as a bag of garden rocks. If you want to win, then you have to have some ambition. You have to convince everyone that your abstract coloured wooden cubes, which represent biotechnology and culture and so on, are worth more than your opponent's coloured abstract wooden cubes. Not to sound trite and cliched and like Gordon Gekko, but play hard to win hard. So what is the first thing that anyone does on any given round? They make a fair trade. At the start of any trade phase, you will have an abondance of resources, either ones that you started the game with, or in subsequent rounds, the ones that you earned on the previous economy phase. You know what you need, you eye up the table, and you mutter a confident, "Does anyone have any blue cubes by any chance?" You don't need to say it, you can see who's got what, but you have to be a bit coy and butter people up with your banterbury skills. Someone pipes up and you immediately shoot for a fair trade. Everyone's amiable because they have a lot of stuff, and if they're not, well then you just move on. Why? Because you can't haggle all the time, and making a fair trade will get you to your goal faster and it will save you precious time. But shoot for too much and everyone's going to abandon you like your Lance Armstrong. Sidereal Confluence, for all its space and alien species, is very much a human game. It will reward you for quick thinking and being able to ply out that deal, but it will equally punish you for being too greedy. Yeah, you need to plan out what you can make and what you can get, but at the heart of this game is conversation. And then suddenly there's 1 minute on the clock, everyone's got most of what they need, except there's that one final thing missing. Maybe it's some life matter that if you could just get 2 of, you could finally develop that new technology or run that really profitable converter. But either no one has it or no one's willing to trade it. Everyone is just okay. And that's pretty much the worst case scenario for you, and that's when you go into desperation mode.
Excuse me, would you like to buy some biotechnology? Biotechnology? Would you want some biotechnology? Trade it for Ultratech. Would you like some biotechnology? Excuse me, would you trade some biotechnology for Ultratech? Excuse me, do you want some biotechnology? Excuse me, do you want some biotechnology? Excuse me, do you want some biotechnology? Yeah? Yeah? What is that? It's biotechnology. I'm trading it for Ultratech. Do you have some Ultratech? And we can make a swap.
Running with chicken.
I'll take chicken.
And now imagine that you're trading with fantasy alien species.
Excuse me, would you like to buy some biotechnology?
No, non vogliamo quella schifezza, vai via, va, via, via, quello, ce l'abbiamo già, via.
You'll plead, you'll make promises that will hurt you, you will try and make a 4-way deal to convince people that no, they do need what you're selling and we only have 30 seconds on the clock, and if you will just listen to me, come on, we haven't got much time left, we can make this happen. We could tell you about the immense satisfaction that you get from running your converters, or the intricacies of bidding on a new technology. But what really lays our punless loins on the waffle maker is how Sidereal Confluence approaches theme. So many games will just plop some lore, even a book of lore, as if sci-fi or fantasy cliches are what tells a story. Sure, there are sheets here that tell you about space bees, or space trees, or space whales, but that's not how theme emerges. Take Kalian, the space trees. I mean, don't actually take the trees because, you know, you'll bust your hands. But consider their treeness. They don't use petrol, they don't eat, and they actually poop out things that are good for the environment. So their planets are lush paradises abundant in cubes. That's represented in the game by those colonies producing twice. But the last time I checked, they are trees and they're really bad at getting onto spaceships. So it will cost you twice to colonise a planet as what it costs everyone else. And that is already what those young'uns call the emergent thematic gameplay. But as soon as you realise you can trade away your Kalian colonies with all their leafy benefits and make a princely sum of cubes, that is where it all starts to make sense. Or consider the Fodderon, who are older than dinosaurs and stale Twinkies combined. And actually they're the colour of stale Twinkies too, but that's by the by. Not only do they hand out acknowledgement tokens like a gold star to say you're such a good boy, you did a good job, well done. They hold a deck of untold riches, each card a surprise to shower you with victory points or goods. And the only cost is to consume a planet. Suddenly, the ancient benevolence have a sinister edge that's barely referenced on this sheet. Yeah, we could go on about how each different species feels unique and how you have to take a different approach to mastering each of them and how mastering them will take you more than a single play session. But actually, I want to go back to what Efka said in my dream about the rulebook. Yeah, it's not the best, but we absolutely have to give an acknowledgement token to the designer of the game because he hasn't obscured the game and he hasn't just dumped the rules. He has left no secrets to any of the species. Each one of them has its own philosophy and it's all written out in plain A, B's and C's. The obvious criticism of this game is that it's not for everyone. Not everyone is going to enjoy a space negotiation game. But maybe let's not dwell on the obvious. In an Alanis Morissette ironic kind of way, in a game where you input resources to output resources, you will only get as much out of it as you put into it. If you approach Sidereal Confluence with sly wheeling rather than dry dealing, and if you embrace the philosophies of those aliens that you embody, I promise you this may not just be the best game that you've played this year, it may be the best game you've ever played. And you can take that to the Space Bank.
Oh my god, Elaine. I had the weirdest dream. We named the WizKids game our game of the year. Can you believe that? In the same year and Gloomhaven came out. It's just never
That's
going
so odd. I had the same exact dream.